A lot of people get into matcha and immediately buy the most expensive powder to make themselves a matcha latte. But what they fail to realize is that expensive matchas, often classified as ceremonial grade in the West, is made to be consumed by itself. But there's a small problem. Sometimes not even an expensive matcha can make your recipe better if the recipe or the ratio is off balance. Now, you can 100% use expensive matcha for lattes, but if you are new to matcha, you'll be hard-pressed to find the difference between a cheap or an expensive powder. And yeah, you can taste the difference, I get that, but a good ceremonial grade matcha is typically stone ground. In this method of production, the lower heat essentially retains most of those delicate notes, such as umami and sweetness. And those notes is what makes it special for drinking alone. It was made to be appreciated as a thin and thick tea, usually with a side of dessert to complement those flavors. But that much we already know. Now that we are in the second wave of the matcha evolution, with matcha lattes becoming more popular by the month, matcha is being commoditized. It's become a basic good that you can basically buy every single day. And that there is the problem. Not all matcha is created the same, it's not equal. You see, a premium matcha the cafe uses is a commodity. But a matcha used for a tea ceremony are still the sort of luxury goods held in high regard. An expensive matcha like this one here is often stone ground and it's quite exquisite by itself and is usually treasured for its unique flavors alone. And while it does taste amazing in lattes, I won't lie, when I do have the opportunity or the chance to make decadent lattes on a daily, what I do crave and what I do still prefer is a straightforward matcha with honest and strong notes like a bitterness or an astringency, because those taste notes pay compliments to the milk that you'll be using. And if you really think about it, when you mix it with the milk again, all those tiny details, right? Those awesome sweetness, the tiny bits of savoriness that are already hidden from a newbie taste palette, those notes will be virtually impossible to tell the difference when you add it with the milk. So what can you do and what actually works for matcha lattes? I would say don't be afraid of a lower quality or trying something that is slightly cheaper for experimenting with different recipes and different ratios first so you can find your preference. Imagine this, a tactical program for bodybuilding you find on the internet is only as good as the individuality one can inject into it. And this is the same with matcha. One should habitually make changes with the recipes to figure out what works best with their taste buds. You can only develop your taste for texture of what you like when you have indulged and experimented long enough. And to simply develop your taste for the texture of what you like, you must experiment a lot. So if you are a beginner, there is no better way to do so by experimenting with a matcha that is forgiving when made into a latte. If you're a beginner to matcha, you'll find that the cheaper matchas has a higher bitterness or astringency that pays compliments to the milk that you'll be using. And speaking of milks, a lesser quality matcha like this, even though it's quite harsh, overwhelming, and it's outclassed by, let's just say, a higher quality one, those harsh, straightforward notes such as the bitterness and the astringency are usually balanced out by the milk, whereas an expensive matcha that is classified as a ceremonial grade in the West are easily outclassed by having a lot of milk if it's not balanced correctly. And for matcha lattes, it's all about the balance, right? It's the trifecta, the menage a trois of the milk, the matcha, and the sweetness. In a cafe setting where the barista will just whisk up the milk and pour it over a ton of milk in that tall cup. This is where your expensive matcha will really suffer. And if you do that, you'll be sinking $60 down the drain and wondering why God has punished you with an inferior drink. An inferior drink that is watery, bland, weak, tasteless. It doesn't have character, no personality. It doesn't even have a unique taste. It probably just tastes like a faint, milky tea. Because not only will you fail to notice the line between good or low quality matcha, you won't be able to even appreciate the work and the effort that went into making the matcha itself, which is a metric ton more intense than producing coffee.